Love him or hate him, no one can deny that Red Bull's team boss Christian Horner is a cold-blooded competitor. A trait that is necessary if you want to survive in Formula One, let alone lead a team to the promised land. So it is safe to assume that Horner has the weight of the team on his shoulders every second of every day, which also means that he has to be the one who has to take it on the chin if things don't pan out as expected for the team. And recently, that is exactly what Christian did, as he would admit to a costly mistake by his staff that many see snowballing into something much worse. So what is this mistake Christian spoke about? Well, the only way for you to find out is to stick around. Before we spill the beans, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on our latest uploads. Now that's out of the way, let us now quench your curiosity. Red Bull was gunning for a 1-2 finish in the Drivers' Championship at the Interlagos race, with Max Verstappen having already secured the world title in Japan and the team taking the Constructors in Austin. They were hoping to end the season on an even higher note by getting Sergio Perez in the runner-up spot. But things went south and they ended up making headlines for all the wrong reasons, as the team was off their game and tensions rose between Verstappen and Perez. When Perez was in 6th place, his team asked him to let Verstappen pass him, promising to give him back the position if he couldn't catch the others. But when he couldn't, and Verstappen was told to give the spot back to Perez, he refused and told the team no way, and would, after crossing the finish line ahead of his teammate, I told you already last summer, you guys don't ask that again to me, okay? Are we clear about that? I gave my reasons and I stand by it. People were thinking that Verstappen's comment might be connected to the Monaco race where Perez crashed in qualifying, which allowed him to start ahead of Max on the grid, that resulted in Perez winning the Monaco Grand Prix. But Horner said it wasn't true and that Verstappen's refusal was just a communication mistake. I think the root cause of the problem was we had never envisaged being in a situation, being in the final few laps, being in 6th and 7th place in that Grand Prix, he said as per the official F1 website. And I think it was something that, as we hadn't envisaged it, we hadn't discussed it before the race, and I think that was a mistake on our part, that we should have thought through or tried to think through every single scenario. And so, I think that was a mistake as a team, that we didn't discuss it and come up with a very clear plan. Obviously, it was unfortunate what happened, but it was quickly discussed openly and transparently. And both drivers were very clear, open, and honest with each other. And from that as a team we move on, and the dynamic between the drivers is absolutely fine. Perez was really mad at Verstappen for showing his true colors, but soon apologized for what he said. Red Bull got them together to talk it out, and Horner said the team took some valuable lessons from the whole thing. I think we made some mistakes in Brazil, we've learned from that, and as I say, we move on. We've done some amazing things, added Horner. These two drivers have performed incredibly well together. They're the reason that we're in the position that we are. Max's season was on another planet last year, so we're not going to let the events of a couple of laps in Brazil dictate the year for us. Now, whether or not the beef, so to speak, between Max and Sergio has been officially quashed is something we may never truly confirm. But what is certain is that this incident in Sao Paulo is brought up every time by people who think that this may give Daniel Ricciardo a chance to snatch Perez's seat. If you have been living under a rock these past few months, the Honey Badger has returned to where it all started for him and is now the 3rd driver for the Milton Keynes team. His arrival to the team has brought hope to Danny Rick fans that one day he will be in a Red Bull cockpit. Horner was asked on a podcast if Red Bull would give Ricciardo a full-time race seat in the future, and he said, "Well, we were surprised to see Daniel be out on the open market. So for us, having grown up with Red Bull, having nurtured him since being a junior, it made sense for us to bring him back into the fold. A driver with so much experience and such a high profile. I think that Daniel had fallen out of love a little bit with Formula One. He's had a couple of really tough seasons, particularly in 2022. For him to play a supporting role to the race drivers as our third driver, both back here in the factory and at events with all the commercial partners we have, as one of the most recognizable faces currently in and around Formula One, for us, it made a lot of sense. He continued, "And I hope in the process, Daniel will rediscover his passion for Formula One, but we certainly have no plans to utilize him other than in that third driver role, to combine with the commercial activities that he will be performing." Horner also talked about what Ricciardo will be up to for Red Bull this year. He said that while Ricciardo will be doing a lot of stuff at the factory, fans can expect to see him hanging around the paddock next year. "Daniel will be attending some races," said Horner. "Obviously, he will be our reserve driver for those events. He'll probably do some tire testing for us to help out with the Pirelli program that gets distributed around the teams. He will be doing some work in the simulator, so he will be doing more of those activities. And then, of course, with the commercial demands that we have from the myriad of sponsors and partners that we have, particularly with a much bigger presence in the US, where Daniel is now predominantly based, with 3 Grand Prix there next year, he is going to have a busy agenda for the season ahead." Karun Chandok, a former F1 driver, now a resident pundit at Sky Sports F1, thinks it'll be an interesting fight between Ricciardo and Perez for a spot at Red Bull in 2024. Perez's contract with the team is until the end of 2024, but there's talk that Ricciardo could come back and challenge Perez's spot. Chandok thinks, though, it might be hard for Red Bull to figure out Ricciardo's performance. "I'm waiting to see how it plays out, because the last time Daniel drove a Red Bull was in 2018, and Formula One cars have changed a lot," Chandok told Sky Sports F1. "It's like a different category now. I think Max Verstappen has changed a lot, given the trajectory he's been on. He's a 25-year-old whose confidence is growing. I think Daniel versus Checo is an interesting fight for the 24 seat. How do they evaluate Daniel? That's what I'm interested to see, because, yeah, they can put them in the simulator, but it's not the same as driving the old car. So will they give him a go in a test somewhere? That's what I'd like to see, is how do they genuinely evaluate Daniel Ricciardo today?" And there you have it, guys. So, personally, are you a fan of Christian? Or are you like Toto, who can't even stand the sight of him? Let us know in the comments section below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't.